Hello. I just wanted to do like a quick mini transmission follow-up to yesterday's, which I believe, I called Vision Mapping, Mind Meets Matter Transmission. And sort of the title came as just the phrase vision mapping kept coming through the last few days. And then once I recorded yesterday, it was brought to my attention of that's essentially what the transmission was, like vision mapping. And by that phrase, what is coming through is like, visions, that of course can be manifested many different ways. A like literal vision, in meditation, through a dream, in your waking life, just sort of like dazing out in the hypnagogic states. Also just the idea of like being a visionary, like a bigger picture, and mapping, sort of connecting dots, or like being shown like the vibrating strings that are spoken about in string theory, how there's these like, quote, invisible strings that sort of interconnect everything. And so, there's this like downloading of this and or connecting. Every time I tap in energetically to the collective, my throat has been just like glitching out, whether it's becoming fuzzy, coughing, mucus. There's just like such a heavy throat clearing energy. I just got a tingle on my crown, and I was just speaking to my mom actually, and a lot of what she's been going through the last few days was what I recorded about yesterday, and so I tapped in a little bit for her. And what came through felt also like a continuation, like I said, of yesterday, and a bit of a collective. Of course, there's nuance for each individual. Something that came through yesterday's transmission, the Buddhabrot. I may be spelling that incorrectly. I may be speaking that incorrectly, but I'm going to spell it. Buddhabrot, which it says is the probability distribution over the trajectories of points that escape the Mandelbrot fractal. Its name reflects its periodolic, which is the tendency for perception to impose a meaningful interpretation on a nebulous stimulus, usually visual, so that one detects an object, pattern, or meaning where there is none. Interesting. I'll see how that plays in. Resemblance to classical depictions of Gautama Buddha, seated in a meditation pose with a forehead mark, in parentheses, tika, a traditional oval crown. I was getting an oval shape the other day, like I kept seeing an oval, and ringlet of hair. So it was discovered by Melinda Green. The rendering technique, anyway. Okay, why this is coming up, I went into a little bit of a bit more detail yesterday in yesterday's transmission, and for the joint overflow on Patreon, I'm going to go even deeper, but I just wanted to touch on it because there's again this idea of mapping and tapping into these, quote, invisible realms, or invisible, and I'm using quotes and invisible because, of course, the more that we become, what's been being shown to me is like being both the observer and the creator or co-creator. There's like bleed through, as they call it, like dimensional bleed through, and also a more physical or materialized embodiment of the interaction of that. And what came through today that I wanted to come on to record for the collective, at least the collectives that I feel connected to, was, and before I even get back to that, I do have a flight to catch soon, so I have to make sure that I am not taking up too much time. But this was just like floating around in my energy, and I felt like I needed to get it out. So I wrote down, 2:34 on the clock. Excuse me, that burp has been brewing. Okay, so invoking synchronicity. Synchronicity, the bridge between matter and mind. That book has been coming through. I have not read it yet, but also the phrase between matter and mind kept coming through from multiple different perspectives and places, hence why I put it in the title of the transmission. Yeah, so I wrote down inner compass redownloading, feeling backwards. So when I was tapped into my mom's energy, it felt like I kept feeling almost turned around, and there was this idea of like rigidity and flexibility, and perhaps from, karmic loops, trauma responses, ancestral karma, experiential life, that there's been this like, not fit what takes for you, of course, rigidity in places and spaces that are now calling for flexibility, and maybe vice versa. Places where you're maybe more, also the word fragility was coming through. Rigid, maybe calling for more flexibility. So the specific example that came up is like, let's say you're someone who has been relearning boundaries and assertiveness and how to like advocate for yourself and say no and put yourself first, and maybe feeling like that's like a selfish thing, or being taught that that's selfish. When on the flip side of that, a lot of us are seeing leading by example, the new paradigm leadership of doing what feels best for you, which in turn doesn't enable another person and allows them to then, in their own time, of course, perhaps, even if it's just planting a seed, to see what happens when we show up in our own best energy, and how that can like ripple out, even if in the moment it may look like, perceived as quote selfish or something like this. So that was an example. So, maybe before where you would have said yes, now you're saying no. So that's like flipping. There's like this flipping energy, or this like feeling of perhaps backwards. And I always think of the show, I only watched a few episodes, maybe one season of, and I always forget the name, Stranger Things, when it's like the upside down world, like things that feel or look one way or actually the other way. A fly just flew by my head as I said that. And I always think of a friend of mine who I haven't spoken to in a while, and she would always say like, yep, we're in like the upside down reality, like things that really look one way or really like another way. And I always think of her. So it's like that kind of energy. And as you continue to like reintegrate fractals of yourself, soul retrieval, things like this, there was like a very shamanic energy that was coming through. Feathers, particularly white feathers, and then also perhaps black and gray. Somatic movement, purging things out of your body, perhaps like irritation or agitations coming up to, it's like twofold. One, to help you forward in terms of like if something's agitating you, there may be like forgiveness needed, forgiveness for yourself. Kuan Yin has been coming through a lot lately. The goddess of compassion, and this idea of the hips, stored guilt, and just like releasing a lot of sacral clearing, throat and sacral, the water element, purging, water, showers, baths, bodies of water, salt water, tears, again, movement, drumming, shaking. So I'm seeing an elk for someone, but yeah, there's like this. I'm also seeing a tambourine, and I'm hearing a song that's not shamanic, but I think it's called Tambourine from Eve. I don't know why I'm singing that song. For some reason, that song always makes me want to like get up and like literally just shake my body. So there could be a song, even if it's not that, that's encouraging you to like start some movement. If you're already doing this, just take it as confirmation or validation. And the particular like movement I was getting is to, of course, trust yourself, but for some of you, like starting with the hips and like slowly rolling the hips and like moving your spine like a snake sort of thing, and just like allowing your inner shamanic direction to flow you through. Yeah, so essentially this like re-uploading, re-downloading internal compass, and reattuning it to this next phase of consciousness that is birthing through. There was a big birth energy that I was feeling yesterday as well that came up, and there's this also like I just heard like kernels, corn on the cob, cornucopia sort of vibe happening. So that could be just like a state of mind, a state of feeling, a state of being that you're entering. Yeah, I was hearing the phrase bliss codes, and there's just this idea, not that we have to be 100% blissed out all the time, not at all, but just this okay, before I even finish on that thought, there is something else coming in. I know there's a lot of talk right now about like curses and hexes, and this person gave me the evil eye, and you know, all that stuff, which I'm not discounting that. Like, these things are absolutely real, I believe, because I've seen and heard crazy things. But there's something about like again, the feathers of like ma'at, justice, karmic justice, stepping into dharma, spiritual abundance, inheritance, DNA re-encryption, original angelic crystalline blueprints that are like guiding you forward, so that if any fear around this comes up, it's just, I think this came up yesterday too. Again, it's not about like denying how you feel. It's more about like not letting any fear or external, fill in the blank word, you know, anything that feels like it's deterring you. Yesterday, I believe the word ruse was coming up. You know, things may start to feel chaotic. Like my mom said, like I've been having so much peace, and all of a sudden there's just like all this chaos in my life. And like, did someone like curse me? Am I doing something wrong? You know? And it's like, whether or not that is true, you know, whether people are cursing you or they're not, or whatever, not whatever, but you know, it's like these feathers are reminding you of the heart and ma'at, and the idea of like Libra, the scales, and justice, and purification of the heart, and lightening, again, like that forgiveness, loosening, somatic trauma, resentment, guilt, all these things, and alchemizing that into knowing these next steps, re-downloading this internal map, and like taking these steps forward with those angelic feather protection messages. It doesn't have to be feathers, but I'm just getting that really strongly. There could be like, I'm seeing dark chocolate, coins, and if there's something like specific to you, you know, like a way that you're being communicated with to continue facing, like due north, basically. And again, to acknowledge that there may be some external interference, but just to continue going within, tapping into like creative potential and creative ways of overcoming obstacles. And just know that, like, again, that protection energy is coming through. I'm seeing like, there's a specific depth. I meant to say deck. Depth. Why am I saying the word depth? I used to call, like, when I was a court reporter, depth, like depositions, depth. I don't know, there could be something about an old or previous career or job coming through. Also, isn't there an actor? Yeah, Johnny Depp. I don't know, that word Depp was coming through. And also depth. But I was trying to say deck. It's an Isis Oracle deck. I'm seeing that card, that deck. And there's a specific card. And I'm also seeing black tourmaline. Yeah, Alana Fairchild is the author. One of my favorite Oracle deck authors. Oh, Anubis is also coming through. Out of the Egyptian pantheon. I just paused. It was 155588. So those numbers can be significant. I just found this spread online from this deck, and the card that I felt like I was kind of picturing also, I found Miracle of Isis, and that word miracle has been coming through so strongly. I also just heard Nephilim. Some of you, if you connect with that. Also the Queen of Heaven and the Lunar Queen. Rising Sun, Pyramid of Light, and Temple of Carnelian. Any of those could be significant. There's also been this like solar emanations of solar frequency, the Aquiline codes, a lot of these, if you want to call it next octave golden glow is kind of the energy that's coming through. You can fit in whatever word or words that perhaps come to you when I say those words. Okay, yeah. I feel like I could keep going and going and going, but... Oh, I found the card. Okay, there was another card. Just like, as I was about to sign off, I just saw it pop up. The Temple of Black Obsidian, the Dark Healing Chamber. So yeah, there could be a call, again, for these like inner etheric purifications, liquid light ceremony, session, whatever it is that you feel connected to. And if it's multiple things, I'm hearing, don't worry about limiting yourself, like open your own container safely, of course, and just see what comes through. I'm also seeing pyrite and the energy of, oh, here's black tourmaline. Okay, so yeah, different things are like popping in. Angelite. My mom was talking about angelite, and that came through a transmission a few weeks ago, so the energy of angelite could also be significant. I was sort of on a different trajectory. I was about to get another energetic strand come in, and it kind of just like dissolved. Some of you may be dissolving cords right now, and or attachments that maybe in the past really pulled at you. Excuse me. Yeah, so this is just that, again, reattunement, integration of this, quote, uploaded, downloaded, next phase, 0-point realigned internal mapping, internal compass that's coming through. And like I said, I haven't recorded on the overflow yet, but some of the main points that kept pulling at me to dive deeper on was Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, sea urchins, the Buddhabrot, I hope I'm saying that right, which I have many other points to sort of weave in there, but yeah, and the nuances that sort of come through that. Also, this idea of invoking synchronicity has been coming up a lot lately. And I had a conversation with someone recently. And today I was in the shower and all of a sudden this like stream of information came in. I was not even thinking. I honestly was like completely, you know, when you're in that zone where you're just like very present, like, you know, they say in the shower, things come to us. I was not thinking about anything and it just sort of zoomed in, poured in. And an EYE. And again, just that idea of like, I've been eating strawberries, a lot of strawberries, and a seed just like all of a sudden like popped in my throat, which I feel like is a message in itself. Technically today I was drinking strawberry. I blended them. Okay, yeah, I just got a message or an email from someone who is a friend, also a client, and a subscriber on YouTube. I don't know why that feels significant, but the invoking synchronicity. Yeah, so I was reminded of a conversation I had. It was actually during an interview, and this topic came up, and the person who was interviewing me was like, yeah, so essentially like synchronicity is like a feedback loop. And in the moment we were just sort of going back and forth. And then today I was shown like this idea of like expanding on that. And like, yes, in some version, it's I guess you can call it a feedback loop, but there was this other template, like a template overlay that came in, again, connected to the idea of non-duality. My throat is like really tapping out for this. So I just wanted to reintroduce this topic because, like I said, bridging all of these multiple references, mediums of information that's been coming through, like this book that keeps popping up, this synchronicity, the bridge between matter and mind, the film documentary that I spoke of yesterday, Inner Worlds and Outer Worlds. These like repeating topics keep coming through. So I wanted to sort of expand on the idea of a feedback loop because, again, like the visual that I was getting was a little bit more fluid, intricate, and sort of expanded than the idea of just like a loop. It was every time I try to tap in, my hands just start doing this like very watery light language where it's like it's taking up a lot of space. There's a lot of loops and curves, and the idea of spiral, like a spiral, so more like a feedback spiral more so than a loop, because it's like the idea, you know, this always comes through, all paths lead home, that there's these many pathways that we sort of click into once we remember the spiral is what I'm hearing. And once we remember that, you know, there's the integration processes, and again, the falling away of things, the alchemical transmutation, and then the Elohai, Seraphai, they're coming through really strongly as this, again, observer watching the co-creator watching the observer. It's like once you realize, it's like watching yourself, you know, and the interconnectedness. And I was also seeing, while my hands were making those movements, a jellyfish and the strings of a jellyfish. And again, taking it back to like those vibrating strings, and like M theory, string theory, and the nuance that happens. So that's just a little bit that wanted to come through, but I will be going into a lot of these topics over time deeper and starting in the overflow on Patreon. Okay, again, I feel like I could keep going. There's like so much coming through, but I'm going to leave it here. Thank you so much, and I hope that, like whatever you're going through right now and or not going through, you get to like treat yourself in some way, whatever that looks like for you. Yeah, habits have been coming through so strongly lately. Choices, habits, etc. Okay, thank you.